The universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old. The Earth formed about 4.5 billion years ago. Life crawled from the oceans 375 million years ago. Humans, Homo sapiens, the thinking ape, have existed for roughly 300,000 years. In all that incomprehensible stretch of time, across every mountain range, every ocean, every storm-swept prairie and sunlit desert, only one species ever looked up at the stars and thought, "I want to go there." And only one person, born in Pretoria, South Africa, on June 28, 1971, actually started building the rockets. His name was Elon Musk. And this is his story. Pretoria in summer smells like red dust and jacaranda blossoms, a purple-blue flower that falls in great drifts across the sidewalks, soft as snow and twice as beautiful. It's a city of government buildings and wide avenues, of schoolboys in crisp white shirts and women in bright head wraps selling mangoes from baskets balanced on their heads. In a modest suburban neighborhood on the east side of the city, there was a house with a small yard. And in that yard, most evenings, a boy lay on his back in the grass and stared at the sky until the stars came out. His name was Elon. He was 9 years old, and he was already terrifying the adults around him. Not through misbehavior. Elon was never a troublemaker in the traditional sense. What made him unsettling was the quality of his attention. When Elon Musk looked at something, he didn't just observe it. He consumed it. He broke it down into parts, reassembled it in his mind, found the flaws in its construction, and began designing improvements before most children would have finished saying the word, "Why?" His mother, May, a stunning woman with silver-streaked hair and a warmth that could light a room, remembered the day she first understood her son was different. He was 6 years old, sitting at the kitchen table with a volume of the Encyclopedia Britannica open before him. Eating a bowl of cereal without looking at it, his eyes racing across the page. "Are you actually reading that?" she asked. "I finished it," he said. "That volume, that one and the one before, and the one before that. Can we get more?" By age 9, Elon Musk had read every encyclopedia at home and fallen in love with Isaac Asimov's foundation. The idea that humanity must become multiplanetary to survive deeply shaped his thinking. School in Pretoria was harsh. He was bullied badly, even hospitalized at 12. Instead of shrinking, he learned karate and taught himself coding. He created a space game called Blastar and sold it for $500, his first proof that he could turn ideas into reality. At 17, rejecting apartheid-era South Africa, he left for Canada with almost nothing. He worked tough jobs, enrolled at Queen's University, then transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, studying both physics and economics. There, he defined 3 future-changing fields: the internet, sustainable energy, and space colonization. Accepted into Stanford University, he quit after 2 days as the internet boom began. At 24, with $2,000, he and his brother started Zip2, sleeping in their small office, showering at the YMCA, and pushing forward despite constant rejection. Driven by ambition and belief in building the future. He rewrote the software constantly, improving it week by week. He had no engineering team. He was the engineering team. He debugged code at midnight, pushed updates at 2 a.m., called clients at 8 a.m., with the cheerful confidence of a man who had slept 9 hours instead of 4. Eventually, clients started signing. The New York Times, Hearst, Knight Ridder. One by one, the major newspaper publishers in America began licensing Zip2 software. The company grew. They hired employees. They moved to a real office with real furniture, where nobody had to sleep on a couch. And then, in February of 1999, Compaq Computer Corporation acquired Zip2. Sale price, $307 million in cash. Elon Musk's personal share, $22 million. He was 27 years old. He had never slept more than 5 hours in a row in 4 years. He drove to the bank to deposit the check, which, at the time, was one of the largest personal checks he'd ever seen. And he sat in the car for a long moment afterward, looking at the deposit receipt. $22 million. He drove home. He opened his laptop. He started writing the business plan for his next company. Money, Elon explained to a small group of early employees gathered in a conference room in a downtown Palo Alto office in November 1999. Is not a thing. It's a number. It's a score that society keeps to track who contributed what value to the collective enterprise. It moves, it flows, and right now the pipes that carry it are made of concrete and lead, slow, expensive, leaky, obsolete. He drew a diagram on the whiteboard. 2 boxes representing banks, connected by a thick, sluggish pipe. This, he said, tapping the pipe, is the current financial system. Every transaction between these 2 boxes costs money, takes days, and requires the permission of a dozen intermediaries who add no value. This is insane. He drew a second diagram. 2 boxes connected by a thin, fast line. This is what it should be. Instant, free, frictionless, money as information. He called the company X.com. He invested $12 million of his own money into it. X.com was an online financial services company, one of the first in the world to offer FDIC-insured deposits, money market accounts, debit cards, and peer-to-peer money transfer entirely online. No branches, no tellers, no waiting in line. The company grew rapidly, but it was not alone. A competing startup called Confinity, founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin, had built a small money transfer product called PayPal that was being used by eBay sellers to collect payments. Both companies were fighting for the same market. Eventually, the fight was settled in the only sensible way: merger. X.com and Confinity combined in March 2000. The merged company was chaotic. 2 cultures, 2 product philosophies, 2 sets of founders, all suddenly crammed into the same building, competing for resources and influence. Elon was CEO. Then he wasn't. While he was on vacation in Australia with his first wife, Justine, the board voted to replace him with Peter Thiel. He came back to find himself demoted. It was a gut punch. It was humiliating. It was, by any normal standard, a moment at which a person would walk away. Elon stayed. He became a board member. He invested more of his own money. He gave up the fight over titles and focused instead on the mission. The product kept the name PayPal. In October 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion in stock. Elon Musk's share, $180 million. He was 30 years old. He was now, by any definition, very, very rich. He could have bought a yacht, a private island, a basketball team. He could have spent the rest of his life in comfortable, luxurious retirement, playing golf and telling stories about the early days of the internet. Instead, he did something that made the people around him genuinely question his sanity. He started building rockets. Chapter 9: The Mars Obsession. To understand why Elon Musk decided to spend his PayPal fortune on space exploration, you have to understand what he saw when he looked at the world. He saw species that had gone to the moon in 1969, a breathtaking achievement. the single greatest technological accomplishment in human history. In 30 years, humanity had gone from never having left the Earth to landing on the moon. And then, in the next 30 years, had done essentially nothing. Elon found this incomprehensible, inexcusable, dangerous. In 2001, he joined the board of a Mars exploration organization and began attending conferences, meeting scientists, reading technical papers. His idea initially was not to build rockets himself, but to donate money to inspire public interest in Mars. He went to Russia to buy decommissioned ICBMs that could be converted to launch vehicles. He met with Russian aerospace officials who were, by turns, bemused, dismissive, and insulting. They quoted him $8 million per rocket, prices that seemed designed to discourage rather than sell. The cost of a rocket should be about 2% of what companies like Boeing and Lockheed charge. He told his colleague, Adeo Resi, sitting beside him on the plane. The rest is overhead, bureaucracy, and monopoly pricing. In November 2021, a calculation was done. Adding up the value of his stake in Tesla, his ownership of SpaceX, and his other holdings, Elon Musk's net worth exceeded $300 billion. $300 billion. To put that in context, it was more than the GDP of Finland, more than the entire wealth of Warren Buffett and Bill Gates combined, more money than any single human being had ever possessed in the recorded history of civilization. He was, by the standard measure, the richest person who had ever lived. He responded to this milestone with characteristic Muskian indifference. He posted a meme on Twitter. But the number, while staggering, was not what defined him. What defined him was what he did with it. He didn't build a monument to himself. He didn't buy a super yacht, though he did briefly own one. He invested it back into SpaceX, into Tesla, into Neuralink, into the Boring Company, into the audacious, expensive, magnificent, maddening projects that he believed would matter. In 2022, he acquired Twitter for $44 billion, renaming it X, in an act of either visionary strategic positioning or spectacular hubris, depending on which analyst you asked. He kept building. He kept working. He kept arguing on the internet at 2 in the morning. He remained, in essence, the same boy from Pretoria who lay in the grass and stared at the stars. What follows is imagined. A portrait of what one extraordinary night, at the peak of Elon Musk's power and ambition, might have looked like. The Texas sky above Boca Chica was enormous and absolutely clear. 1 billion stars scattered across the darkness like the work of some careless hand that had knocked over a jar of diamonds. The Gulf of Mexico murmured invisibly in the distance. The scrubland was silent except for the wind moving through the sparse vegetation and, very faintly, the hum of generators powering the floodlights that illuminated the structure at the center of the facility. Starship. It stood 120 meters tall, taller than the Saturn V that had carried Neil Armstrong to the moon. It was made of stainless steel that had been polished to a mirror sheen, so that in the floodlights it gleamed white and silver and impossible. It looked like something from a dream, or from one of the science fiction novels that Elon had consumed as a child in Pretoria. It looked like what humanity imagined the future would look like, before the future arrived, and turned out to be mostly apps and social media and arguments about things that wouldn't matter in 100 years. This would matter in 100 years. Elon Musk stood on the roof of the operations building, alone, his hands in the pockets of his jeans, looking at the rocket. He'd been there for 40 minutes. His security detail had given up trying to stay at his shoulder and retreated to the warmth of the building behind him, leaving him alone with the stars and the machine. He was thinking about his son, Griffin. He was thinking about the photograph of Earth taken by the Apollo 17 crew, the one called the Blue Marble, the most reproduced photograph in human history, showing the whole round Earth floating in the absolute blackness of space, fragile and brilliant and alone. He was thinking about a line from a Carl Sagan book. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. He heard a footstep on the roof access stairs. He didn't turn around. "The bathroom is on the 3rd floor," he said, "if you're lost." A pause. "I'm not lost. I forgot my badge." He turned. A young woman stood at the top of the stairs, holding a laptop bag, looking slightly mortified. She was maybe 25, 26, Asian American. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had the slightly haunted eyes of someone who had been working 18-hour days for the last 3 weeks, which, Elon reflected, was probably because she had been. "Maya Chen," she said. "Structures team. I left my access badge in the badge reader outside. I need to..." "Sit down," Elon said. She blinked. "Sorry." He gestured to the concrete rooftop. "Sit down. Take a minute." Then Maya Chen sat down cross-legged on the concrete, setting her laptop bag beside her, and looked out of the rocket. Elon sat down beside her. 2 people on a rooftop in the middle of Texas, in the middle of the night, looking at a machine that was supposed to take humanity to Mars. "What do you see?" he asked after a while. She considered the question seriously. He appreciated that. She didn't make a joke. "A vehicle," she said. "What else?" "An engineering system. 230 tons of stainless steel and propellant, 49 Raptor engines, a heat shield that..." "What else?" She was quiet for a moment. The wind moved through the facility. Somewhere far away, a bird called once and was silent. "A promise," she said finally. He looked at her. "We made a promise to all the people who never got to leave," she said. "Every human being who ever lived and died on this one small world without ever seeing any other. We made a promise to all of them that someone, eventually, would go further." She paused. "That's what I see." Elon was quiet for a while. "Tell me why you work here," he said. "Because I was 8 years old when the Falcon 9 first landed on the drone ship." She said it simply, without embarrassment. "I saw the footage on my parents' phone. I watched this rocket come down out of the sky and land on its engines on a platform in the middle of the ocean, and I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I watched it maybe 30 times in a row. And I thought, whoever built that, I want to work with them. And now you do. And now I do." A small smile. "It's harder than I thought it would be." "Yes," Elon said. "It is." They sat in silence for a moment. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said. "You can always ask. I might not answer." "Do you ever think we're doing this too slowly? Like, we could be further along? If there was more funding, more political will, more..." "Every day," Elon said. "Every single day I think we're not moving fast enough. Every day that this rocket is not flying is a day that the future isn't happening. And the future needs to happen because..." He stopped, started again. At 9, Elon Musk learned the sun would one day become a red giant and destroy Earth. The idea that all human history could end because of physics deeply disturbed him. He decided extinction wasn't acceptable. Humanity had to spread to other planets. Years later, standing beneath Starship, he told an engineer that beneath contracts, deadlines, and setbacks, He was still that 9-year-old who refused to accept the end. Mars wasn't just a project. It was insurance for life itself. By 2023, the numbers were staggering. SpaceX valued at over $150 billion, Tesla reaching $800 billion at its peak, Starlink operating in 60-plus countries, Neuralink beginning human trials, and X serving hundreds of millions of users. He became the richest person in history. Not by chance, but by betting everything on solving engineering problems in energy, space, and technology. The numbers matter. But the real story is this. He believed humanity's future could be built, and he worked relentlessly to prove it. He was, in other words, human. Complicated, brilliant, maddening, consequential. The richest human being in history, yes. But more importantly, the human being who looked at the challenges of his era, climate change, dependence on oil, the fragility of a single-planet civilization, and didn't avert his eyes, who looked at those challenges and said, "These are engineering problems. I am an engineer. Let's get to work." Somewhere tonight, in a city whose name you know, a child is lying in bed, looking at the ceiling and thinking about the future. Maybe they're thinking about the stars, maybe about electricity, maybe about how information moves, or how rockets fly, or what it would feel like to stand on the red soil of another planet and look back at the blue dot in the sky that used to be the only home humanity had ever known. If they're lucky, someone will tell them, there was a man who thought those same thoughts. And instead of dismissing them, or waiting for someone else to act on them, he built the rockets himself. I could either watch it happen or be a part of it. When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Elon Musk.